Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. This is the Resilient Grove. This is a gathering place for honest conversations about healing, resilience, and the courage it takes to grow through life's hardest seasons. Let's take a moment before we begin. I invite you all to join us. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Make yourself comfortable, and let's get started.
Sean. All right, so I want to give you, well, you're not wearing your uniform, so we have to tell everybody that you're a police officer for Olmsted Township. And I met you because, well, first the fire, but I met you when you guys invited us back to the station so that we could watch the body cam footage. So that's why we're here today. So do you remember anything about that night of the fire?
I remember it pretty easily.
Really?
It was one of the few house fires I've actually been to.
Oh, okay.
So initially we switched over to North Olmsted Dispatch, and that was the very first day we switched from Southwest.
I know.
So
it was on you switched on Monday and my fire was Tuesday.
Yeah, so we switched, and then we got the call for Holly, I think it was Holly Lane.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's Olmsted Falls. But
where were you in the moment? Do you remember?
We were right on station because it was at shift change, basically.
Oh, that's right. It was like 15 minutes after.
Yeah, so.
So you were here?
Yeah, so I was right next door, and then we heard house fire. So obviously, even though it was dispatched to the township, even though it was the falls, we still were like, all right, we have to go.
And I believe you guys got there before the falls did, didn't you?
Yes, we did, yes.
Okay, so you remember that night clearly then?
Yeah, I mean, we got there. I initially walked up trying to find out anyone else is inside. I remember you outside.
Were you the first one that showed up?
I can't say for sure.
Okay.
I want to say I was, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Oh, you know what? I don't even know either. It was all a blur. But anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I walked up. I tried to find out, who's inside. And again, I'm trying to be, calm because, again, I don't know who the homeowner is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously,
you don't know who anybody is.
Yeah.
By that point, like a lot of neighbors had come out.
Yeah. Obviously, everyone's trying to see what's going on. Everyone's trying to help.
So now, if more police officers than one show up, how do you guys delegate, like, who's going to be the one that assesses the situation and like, kind of leads it?
It depends jurisdictionally. So even though it was Olmsted Falls, because I believe I was the first one on scene, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter who's in command at this point. It's basically find out what's going on, do what you can to stop it, and at least try and help people who are at least there.
Did you end up staying the whole night, or did you end up leaving after a while?
I ended up leaving after the fire was initially cleared. Okay. I know Olmsted Falls had a car, I believe, stay overnight because I didn't know this, but initially what I found out is they have to have a car parked outside of a house fire because, again, because of, nature.
You mean after the fact?
Yeah, even after the fact, because after everything's cooled down, if there's wind, depending on the weather, stuff like that, it can spark it up again. So it's at least important.
Were you the one that sat there then?
I wasn't because it wasn't our jurisdiction, no.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Wow. Okay, so let's go backwards. What made you become a police officer?
I just picked something. My entire family is basically all fire service. Like my dad was a fire chief. My brother Kyle, he's medically retired from fire. My brother Colin is a fireman. So I'm like.
Did you feel expected to go into that role?
No, not particularly. I at least wanted to do something public service because, again, if I wasn't able to do police, not that I would have been good at fire, but I was like, at least I have people who have the experience of the job and can at least guide me into the right direction.
Wow. Okay. Well, do you think it's a calling?
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. You have to be very understanding of the expectations that are at hand, and especially you have to realize, you can have a parking complaint call or a house fire call, and you have to be able to be
prepared for all of it.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for it, especially how it can affect people. It affects everyone differently, but again, if you go to an incident, you may be a little more affected than other guys because you're not.
How can you really get trained on that, though?
I think a lot of it can be upbringing, but also I think the more experience you have, not that it's easier to deal with, but it's more of, because I have the experience, if I go to my next house fire, I understand, all right, I have to do this, this, and this.
Have you had another fire since mine?
I think we've had calls, but I haven't been to another house fire.
Because after mine, there were probably like 4 or 5 other ones, but I wasn't sure if you had gone to them.
No, I think most of them happened during the day shift when I wasn't working. If I was working that day, it would have been just because I was called in.
Do you like the midnight shift?
Yeah, I will not go off of it unless I'm forced to.
Interesting. Why is that?
It's actually easier. So we work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I am in a position where I sleep when my family is at work. So when I get up, they get home. So I'm not missing any time with them technically.
Okay.
The only time I'm
so it kind
missing.
of blends in well.
Yeah, the only time I'm missing is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. when they go to bed.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really losing like a couple hours a week.
Okay, how long have you been doing the midnight shift?
I've been doing it since I started. So initially, at least how our department is you start on a field training. You start on day shift because, you haven't been in the department, you don't know what to expect. You have to learn how they work, how they handle paperwork, stuff like that, the kind of people you deal with. And then after like a month or two, you transition to nights because it's seniority based,
I
which
figured, yeah.
it's not a big deal.
Okay.
I wanted to work nights since I became a cop, so I was perfectly willing to do that. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So what part of being a police officer is the most meaningful for you? I mean, you kind of already said it, but go ahead.
I think the small interactions you have with people, like one of the things that I try and do every year is shop with a cop because like when I was younger, my dad, since he was in the fire service, we used to go around with him on the engine and stuff like that and bring Christmas gifts to people.
I saw the pictures on Facebook. Didn't you do that with the kids?
This past year I did,
yeah. I saw that.
And I didn't understand it too much when I was a kid because you're young, you don't get it. But as you get older, you appreciate like.
So what do you do? You just take presents in your car and you go?
For Shop with the Cop, like we use Walmart in North Olmsted, so we'll have kids who are, obviously not in the best situations. Their parents or guardians or whoever will bring them up station, and we'll go to Walmart and we'll be like, hey, we have, $200 for you to spend on stuff that you want.
And you go shopping with the kid?
Mm-hmm.
That's so sweet. Just you and the kid?
Yeah, and it's packed. Like
I'm sure.
Walmart dedicates the whole store to us because it's multiple agencies. It's not just us. It's us, North Olmsted, State Highway Patrol,
okay.
And all different agencies.
So that's not even really being a police officer. That's like the public service part of it.
Yeah, and that's the rewarding part because again, especially when the kids say, I want to do this with you next year, it means a lot. You hope you don't see them next year because you want them to be in a better spot to where they don't have to worry about stuff like that.
Wow, that's amazing. So what part of being a police officer do people rarely understand?
I think the impact it has on your body, whether it's physically or emotionally, because again, you deal with incidents where, you go to it and you're like, that kind of messed me up a little bit. And
emotionally, you mean?
Yeah, and I'm in a position where I haven't dealt with very many calls that will impact me like that. But even working night shift, it does impact your body.
Sure, because you're not in that circadian rhythm.
Yeah. Which it happens. It's something that you have to, again, going back to, is it a calling? Yeah, because you have to understand, I'm going to work nights. It's going to be hard on my body, but is it the sacrifice you're willing to make? Which I am at this point.
Like you said, it's not for everybody. Okay, so let's go back to the night of the fire. The one thing for me that stands out is the command and urgency in your voice with me. And like you said earlier, you have to be prepared for any kind of call. In that moment when you yelled, is that training, adrenaline, both? Like what is that made you have that urgency in your voice when you were yelling at me?
It's both. When I first became a cop and I started using the lights and the sirens, it is a very different feeling, especially if you're going to a house fire. Your mind is racing. You're trying to think, all right, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And you almost get tunnel vision to where you're not paying attention to everything. And when I saw you and you're trying to go back.
Is it a fight or flight type of thing? Or?
It can be. I think it depends on your experience. If you've never had that adrenaline done before.
Well, you can't fly, obviously, so you have to fight.
Yeah, and it's very weird to experience at first, especially if you've never experienced it. You don't know what your body's going to do until you're in the moment.
Have you ever raised your voice like that before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Many times. And again, it's more of some people, again, are in tunnel vision, and I could be talking
about me? Like I was in tunnel vision?
Yeah. You looked like you were having tunnel vision, and you weren't. You were comprehending what was going on, but you weren't aware of everything.
My safety.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So on that note, when you saw me going back in to try, so after Felix ran into the window, because I had that crack of the window, I think there were like 4 of you guys at that time were trying to get him out of the window, and then he took off. And then I instinctively just go to run into the front door, and I went to open up the door, which I didn't remember until I watched the body cam footage. And then you grabbed my arm and you yelled at me and pulled me back. And I didn't remember you grabbing my arm, but the yelling was what woke me up. And it was, for me at that moment, I didn't know who you were. I felt it was like parental, like this big man was just like raising his voice at me. Like that's what woke me up. So like, yes, I wasn't in tunnel vision because I just wanted to protect my cats. And then you knew obviously that wasn't the right moment. But then you went in and got the Felix. Like, why?
It's just one of those things. I mean, I have a dog, so I've lost dogs before, so I do understand the loss to an extent, you know.
Is that part of training, whether you have to go in and protect animals?
You know, our whole job is to protect and preserve life. You know, all life's important. Obviously, you know, we don't want people to die. That's the most important thing, even though I see pets like family. But again, your house is burning down. It would at least be nice that you at least get to have someone or an animal, you know, to have.
In that moment, were you the one just closest to the door, and that's why you went, or like how did that? Because nobody else went to the door.
I was close to the door because I remember they were trying to cut the screen open to try and get the
Oh, so
cat
then
out.
by that time I went to the door, and maybe you kind of went over with me and grabbed me. Okay.
Yeah, because I saw you and I'm like, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Because again, I do understand wanting to go in and do the right thing and try and save your parts of your family, but you know, I have to protect you. You know, if someone's going to get hurt, it has to be on me. It can't be on you.
That's really what kind of shocked me when I met you. It was like, you have to save people of all ages, even people older than you. And then it was my instinct when I met you. I'm like, I'm the older one. Like, I'm the one that should have gone in there. Why would you do that? But you, like you said, you take an oath to protect everybody, regardless of their age. That's, as a mother, like, that's hard for me to understand, like, because you're somebody's son. Like, how could I look at your mother and be like, oh yeah, I let him go in to get my cat, not me? Like, that just seems foreign to me, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, the way I look at it is I tell people all the time, you know, if people are worried about my safety, it's my job. And I would rather have something happen to me and make sure everyone else is safe, and at least try and, hey, it's still life, and I at least would try and do the right thing to make sure people are happy and safe.
So Felix goes to the door. He went limp. So you were able to pick him up and bring him to me. You thought he was dead.
When he got to the door, it looked like his back legs started like going down. So I think because of all the smoke inhalation, his body was like, hold on. Like, I need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Because again, a cat's different than a human, but you're not supposed to breathe that stuff in.
So he's a very anxious, he only likes me, he hides when people come over, he's like that type of cat. So for him to go limp to be rescued, like, I just love that story for him, you know? And he didn't, like, when we took him to the animal hospital, they didn't think he was gonna survive. And after 2 days, he pulled through and we were able to take him home. So, like, I love that story for Felix, and I tell him all the time, like, thanks for living. Like, that's just, because now I got my boys, I got my dog and my 2 cats, and you know, sadly I lost 5, but at least I have, like you said, at least I have some, right? So what was that moment for you emotionally, like when you pull the cat out and you bring him to me? Like, how did, like, do you feel anything in that moment? Like, you remember?
I didn't feel anything in the moment, and it wasn't out of like that I didn't feel empathy or anything. It was more of, okay, we got the cat out. We got to at least try and contain this, because again, if I remember the area very right, all the houses are pretty decent in proximity, and you know, we don't want things to spread. That was my worst fear. Again, I don't have a fire hose, but I at least want to keep people back.
So after you rescue Felix, you pull me away. What do you do for the situation?
Just trying to keep people back, because you know, one of the things that you know we do, and I'm sure every other police department does, is you know, when you go to the fire scene, you do what you can at the initial scene, but if there's close neighbors, you have to go knock on the door and be like, hey, you have to go.
I remember hearing about that. You guys had to go alert all the neighbors.
Yeah, because again, with how things go, you know, whether it's, you know, the weather or how close things are, things can catch on fire pretty easily. And the last thing we need is, you know, if another house catches on fire, that's another whole situation.
So realistically, how would that happen? Like, if the fires, like the flames are shooting out of my house and it hits their house?
I think you'd have to ask a person who's in fire more about that, because I just know fire catches things on fire. I don't know.
Everything's flammable. That's what I learned.
I don't know how quick it has to happen or anything like that. But again, like, we've had some trailer park fires, and the trailer homes are a lot easier to catch on fire, unfortunately. But
I have seen a lot in those trailer parks. Okay, so we go back to the station. We watch the body cam footage. I don't remember you pulling on me. I would imagine you pulled on me and yelled at the same time.
If I remember correctly, yes, it was more of, you know, hey, you have to get back.
Yeah.
And again, it's to, in other words, wake you up, because I had the feeling.
It wasn't you pulling on my arm; it was your voice.
Yeah,
that woke me up.
I've had times where, not even necessarily just on the job, where you're not hearing people. You have auditory exclusion, so
Yeah.
you're not listening, you're just reacting. And then when someone raises their voice, you might be like, okay, someone's trying to get
I
my
was in a
attention.
state of shock the entire night.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat on the ground for most of it because that's where I needed grounding. But like, I didn't know what to do. I just kept asking everybody. I'm like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what do people do in these situations? I don't know. I mean, it was just mainly you guys and the fire that kind of guided me to what I needed to do. So I'm grateful for that. How often do you actually hear like the after stories? Probably not often, huh?
Very rarely. Yours is probably one of the few cases that we've had, like, I guess some sort of feedback that, at least from my experience, I know other officers have heard things about people that they've saved and stuff like that, but I haven't been on calls a lot to where I hear the aftermath, I guess, if that makes sense.
Is it, I mean, for me, I know as working in the medical field, when you have a patient, like I don't often get to see the patient, you know, when they go home or what happens afterwards, and you don't know how you impacted them, right? So I imagine it's the same for you. It's like you can, you know, in that moment you impacted them, but, you know, you don't know what happens to them after the fact. So I can relate to that. So when you do have an opportunity, how would you have an opportunity to see or hear an after story?
You know, depending on the situation, you know, I may ask, you know, the fire department who respond and be like, hey, how are they doing? And if they can tell me, they tell me. Or, you know, again, like when I had to come here looking for that wallet, maybe I saw you in here and was like, oh, how are you doing?
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
and you just run into people.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. So before I met you, the voice was parental in my head. And like I said, I thought you were just like this bigger, older man. And then I find out you're younger. Like, how does your mom and your dad or anybody, like your family, how do they, like, do you check in with them every night? Like, you know, hey, I'm okay, I'm still alive. Like, how do parents do this with kids in the police force?
I think my dad, it's easier for him to like be a little more relaxed because he's
been in the work.
Yeah, he's been in the work, so he understands like if something's wrong, you know, he'll let me know.
Do they have a police scanner?
He doesn't anymore because he retired from the job, but
Okay.
he, you know, will call me at least a couple times a week and be like, hey, how are things going? Do you need
Okay.
anything? And then my mom, you know, I check in with her every day, so she at least appreciates that. And it's, if she doesn't call me in the morning, it is like weird because I'm so used to it at this point, which is at least a good thing that
Yeah.
she is trying to look out for me.
That was my feeling when I met you. I felt like that maternal instinct of like, there's no way you should have gone in, especially when I heard you cough. And like, that was when I was like, oh my God, like you put yourself in danger to save my cat. Like, and you're somebody's son. Like that to me was just like, I would, if it were my son and me, I would tell him, I would pull him back, right? No, I go in. So it was very odd for me to accept that you were younger than me and you pushed me aside to go in and save my cat. So that's the mind shift that I had to make. So thank you for that. Like I said, you have to step into any age. So stories like this rarely make the news. Why?
It's hard for me to say. You know, I'm not a news expert. I don't watch a lot of the news, especially.
But just in general, you know, police stories and fire stories, none of the good stuff is ever on the news. It's always the bad stuff, right? I mean, just in general, people have a negative opinion of police officers. Like, how do you combat that?
I think it's just every interaction helps. You know, some people who don't like cops, it could be because they got pulled over and they maybe didn't have good interaction. Whether the police officer was nice, mean, everyone's human. And some people, you know, interpret things differently. If you get yelled at to calm down because you're not paying attention and you're not grasping the situation, you may take that negatively. Whereas I yelled at you and you were kind of like, okay, he's trying to make sure that I don't do something that will put myself in danger. So it's all case-by-case experience.
So I grew up with, my ex-husband is a lawyer, and he referred to police officers as pigs, and that's how he raised our children. And after our fire, not that I ever called cops pigs, but that's just what I was always hearing all those years. But like after that, never ever again would I ever even consider that, because like you said, we're all human, and to refer to somebody, and you see that online. I mean, you see people making fun of cops going to donut shops and stuff like that, right? That's like the general joke. That to me is just terrible, because like I said, I mean, you guys are human, putting yourselves in danger for us, and then people are calling you pigs and, you know, making fun of you. Like, just, it made me see more of all of that. Not that I didn't pay attention before, but like now it's like, and I think that's why I wanted to do this podcast, so that we can share these stories and get those stereotypes broken, that you're a human too. And you do this because you feel like it's a calling, and why should we make fun of you for that? We need you to do this, right? So that's where I'm from. So you don't watch the news, then you don't see all the stories, but I mean, you hear things, right?
No, I mean, I hear things, but you
don't let it bother
try
you?
not to let it bother you, because again, yeah, someone could call me a pig, but I still have a job to do. And,
You do.
You know, if people say, "Oh, you eat donuts," and be like, "Okay."
I do too.
It doesn't bother me.
The night of the
fine with
fire,
it.
I was getting donuts.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with
Yeah.
having a donut. It doesn't bother me. So
So that one night, you know, you just get to work, you get thrown into a house fire. It impacted my life forever. You know, we're doing this podcast now. My kids will forever know you. You've just carved away into our lives that, like, that would just, I think it's special. Like, just knowing that we were going to be doing this podcast pushed me to heal, because I really wanted to do this, because I really want to break stereotypes and molds and just, you know, let everybody know that we're all human. So thank you for doing this.
yeah, thanks for having me.
What do you do to recharge when you're not in your uniform?
I think just, again, sleeping is a huge thing, especially on nights, but I think just take care of your body, whether it's exercising, hanging out with family or friends. It's important to separate yourself from the job, because any first responder job, it's very hard to separate yourself, because, you know, again, I don't live far from here, so it's easy for me to be like, all right, I want to see what's going on at work, but you have to separate yourself, because again, it is what you are, but you have to enjoy your own personal life.
You have to have that balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could give yourself one piece of advice, go backwards, what would you tell yourself, your younger self?
I think just trust your instincts and, you know, make the right decision, whether it has a good impact or bad impact on yourself, because again, it's about other people and making sure that they are safe.
So that is one thing that you really have to, like, trust your gut. I mean, that's something that came with life and experience for me, but do you feel like you kind of have that already, where you are firmly, like, connected with yourself?
Yes and no. I think it does come with, you know, getting older and stuff like that. And I think on the job I have better, you know, gut experience, because again, I've done it long enough to where I have the common sense of, all right, this is what I have to do. But again, there's always new challenges, so you're never going to know the right answer right away. You know, you have to look into stuff or just go through the experience. And if you mess up, it happens.
Now you know what to do
Yeah,
the next
it's all
time.
about, as long as, you know, you make the right decision for yourself, you just have to go through the experience, whether it's good or bad.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. I mean, I wouldn't have a cat if you didn't. So I really appreciate you for what you did, and thank your parents for raising a good kid, and thank you for doing this. Can I have a hug?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
No problem.